I had quite a, some might think, bizarre upbringing.
Can you remember your first experience of art?
I can't remember it, but my mum always talks about when I was little, and we used to have this like high chair. She like once left me to it, and she came back and I showed her, and I was like, look what I've made. And I'd cut off a lot of my hair and just like stuck it to the paper because I thought it looked nice. Like I had quite a, some might think, bizarre upbringing in that my parents had this belief that I didn't have any TV when I was little. We weren't allowed any TV because we had to use our imagination to keep us entertained. My mum has this theory that you develop your imagination as a young kid, and if you can like curate and harness and like nurture that as a little one, then it will feed your imagination as an adult. Now I do have this like very rich like creativity and imagination that fuels my work, and I do wonder sometimes whether it's because like as a kid, like if you were bored, you just had to make like games up and go do your own thing, and you relied on your own imagination to build that entertainment. So I wonder if it's kind of like it's that kind of like nature versus nurture concept, isn't it? Where does creativity come from? A curiosity maybe, and like obviously imagination.
That's a crazy thing to have a child in, like TV is.
Yeah, I know. There's still like cultural references where someone will say something about Disney Channel or something, and I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know.
And how long did that go on for?
My whole childhood, I didn't think. But then the only time we were allowed TV is if the babysitter was around, and then we'd like, me and my brother would be like glued to the TV. I was actually more like fine art initially. When I was younger, it was exploring basically just anything that was out there. But then when I was at university and I was going into the illustration world, I was having to unpick that learning of how to capture something as it is. I remember my professor saying like, why would you draw it as it is when you have your imagination to do anything you want with it? And I think that was like the learning of being adventurous and pushing the boundaries and becoming more abstract and being playful and using emotions to communicate something within your work. One of my biggest inspirations is Berlin as a city. Berlin has this like fascinating relationship with its history and how it exhibits that in location, and having that discussion in an open space where everyone can access it is really interesting, and that's something that completely inspires my work because I'm really, really interested in local heritage and like showcasing local stories and like what happened in that building that the artwork is actually on, and that's where like my interests and inspirations really like meet in the middle of like bringing that archival material and those oral histories and the use of public art and illustration like together. A lot of people don't think that they're interested in art but might engage with a mural or street art in a way that they would never go to a gallery. And I'm really interested in how public art is this like free experience where you can engage with art. Even if you were like, oh, I don't like that, at least you've like engaged with it.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your work then.
Yeah.
Which piece is your favourite of yours?
I think I'm very partial to the new pavilion because it was the first time I got given something ridiculously huge. I was still a student when I applied, and then they were like, yeah, congratulations, you've got it. Like, do you want to do 52 installations on this giant 3-story building? And I was just like, oh my God, yeah, obviously, but oh, okay, cool. So I got it, and then I had this kind of realization of like, oh my God, how do I do this? I've never done anything this massive. And that project was just so amazing because it was when I started tying history into my work, and I'd figured out that this was what I was fascinated in. And I started doing, it was still during COVID, so you couldn't really like do community engagement in the way that I do now, but I did like a open call on it was like a Facebook page, and I just said like, does anyone have any stories about this building? And I got so many responses. People loved this building, and it clearly was like the heart of the community for like such an extended period of time. But what I'd learned was from like the early 1900s, it was a theatre where the first act that was there was someone called Volcana. And she was like this amazing strong woman who her act was that she could lift like an entire man above her head with just like one arm. And she was this amazing like feminist icon who like fought against corsets. And so it went from a theatre to a cinema, and I collected all these amazing stories about like someone had met their wife at the cinema and then they like got together and obviously became married. So woven into the artwork, I have like a date that happens and there's like a cheeky kiss at the end. So there's all like references to the oral histories that people gave me. And that project was just like, it's always a special place in my heart because it was the first time that so many things were piecing together of like what I love to do.
What do you think it is that makes you get up on a morning?
And do my job?
Yeah.
It's definitely like just a pure love for it. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's just something where like I'm always excited to do it. Like the projects that I'm working on, luckily, are things that I'm really passionate about. So it is probably one of the only things that really does, like if I had to get up early, the only things I would get up early for are probably like a flight and my work, and everything else I'm kind of like,
So that's the interview bit done.